Welcome in, Hawks fans. Your boy Bryce Lewis back at it again for another Believe in Hawks episode. The Hawks survived the Brooklyn Nets in Brooklyn, 117 to 112, to now go to 101 out of their 4-game road trip that they are currently on right now. The Hawks survive, get the win, 2-3 now in the year. But the big story of this game is the loss of Trae Young going down early in the game after Mo Gay was pushed into him by a Brooklyn Nets player, and people are just now waiting word. What is the severity of the injury to Trae Young? A lot of people with different types of speculation out there. From the Hawks called it a knee sprain. That could mean MCL. That could mean, hopefully, worst case scenario, ACL. That could just mean a sprain for real. That could just mean a knee bruise. That could just mean a myriad PCL, a myriad of different things potentially for Trae Young. And so the Hawks are awaiting that. Chris Haynes reports that Trae Young will undergo an MRI tomorrow on Thursday to determine the severity of the injury. But nonetheless, the Hawks are probably going to be without Trae Young for at least a couple of weeks. So we're going to go into all of that. My thoughts on the Hawks without Trae Young, why I think they may be able to get through this stretch without Trae Young, depending on how long he's out. And then obviously get into the game where a lot of the other guys that we've been asking to step up have stepped up, and a couple of guys that we need to step up, I'll even have more pressure with Trae out. So if you guys enjoyed this episode, definitely subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment down for more Believe in Hawks, and obviously my audio listeners as well. Leave 5 stars. Whatever platform you're listening to me on, you can listen to me on any audio platform out there. And then also follow me on Twitter at Bryce_2K if you want to keep up with me live tweeting during the games and talking about any reaction to anything that's happening in the Hawks community. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. So before I get into the game, I'm going to talk about Trae, because that's what's on everybody's mind. That is the headline of the game. Trae Young out. Trae Young out with injury. So, obviously, freak injury. Mo Gay gets pushed into him by, I don't know his name fully. I know his last name's Clowney for Brooklyn. Pushed Mo Gay down, and it hit the side of Trae's knee, which obviously when you see that, those injuries are very scary because you don't know what happens in that moment. When that injury happened, Trae Young got up, tried to play through it. He kind of walked it off, ran it off, stayed on the court after the timeout, and then when they got back to the Hawks end of the court, he signaled to the coaching staff, "I'm done. No, I can't." And so he went back to the locker room, and that's when they ruled him out just a few minutes later with a right knee sprain. So the question is, if Trae Young is out for an extended period of time, how can the Hawks hold up during that period of time without Trae Young? And the first thing that comes to mind is this. I said this on Twitter, and this is my thought process. Now, you may look at the end of the game tonight and be like, but you'll understand what I'm saying. In the last couple of years, maybe I guess since the DeJounte's last year here, the Hawks pretty much have only had 2 scores that can get you 20, which last year it was Trae and Jalen. Jalen, when he started his first year, when DeJounte was there, could do it, but he was still kind of learning, so I wouldn't have put him in that category then. But Trae and Jalen last year were the 2 guys who could get you 20. One of the reasons why people were excited about this Hawks team is now you have 3 guys who can go get you 20. Kristaps can get you 20, Jalen can get you 20, Trae can get you 20. So you got all 3 guys who can put the ball in the basket if needed, right? Now with Trae Young out, a lot of the offensive onus is going to be on Jalen Johnson and Kristaps Porzingis. They have to carry them offensively. KP fouled out late in this game, and you saw after he fouled out, how hard it was for them offensively, because KP is one of those guys who is a mismatch. He's 7'3". Even if it's not the greatest shot, he's maybe taller than the guy who's defending him, so he can still get a good shot for him. And that can still be offense for you. And then Jalen can play off of that. But they have to maintain their offensive output. They've both been playing well offensively at the beginning of the year. But they have to basically now pretty much carry it while Trae is out. Because usually when you have the different options of scores, you have the ability to say, even if one of them doesn't have it going, the other 2 can have it going. now you kind of need Jalen to kind of grow. This is a stretch for Jalen to show if he truly is a 1 or a 2. And some people may still think he's a 3, but whatever you think he is, this is his chance to show that he can be that. All right, because he's going to probably get a lot more ball handling responsibility. You saw it kind of tonight when after Trae went out, and he's going to have to pick up the offensive load, right? And like I said, Kristaps Porzingis, we know what he's going to have to do. He's going to also have to pick up that load offensively. They're going to probably, and you see the Hawks in a couple of games will feed Kristaps when he has mismatches. So both of those guys are going to have to carry it offensively, right? Second, Dyson and Zach have to be better offensively. Have to be better offensively tonight. Both of them, Dyson had 7, Zach had 8 tonight, right? And I'm going to get in Dyson again because I know people are still not happy with Dyson, and people are wanting Riche to finish games over him, right? But at the end of the day, the thing about that statement of Zach finishing, it's not like Zach is doing something to warrant finishing the game over Dyson. The Hawks know for a fact that if Dyson is on the floor, that is one of their best defensive units, especially in the closing lineups that they have. Right? And, I mean, also when Luke played late in the game, I think some people were thinking, why is Luke Kennard out there? Which I'll get, like I said, more into that game part. But they're going to have to step up. Zach and Dyson are going to have to step up. Like literally they have to. There is no, well, we want them to. Like, they have to. If the Hawks are going to be able to maintain and stay steady without Trae, Zach and Dyson at least got to give me your averages from last year. If you can't give me more, give me your averages, which is more than what you're doing right now. Dyson has still had some struggles offensively tonight. Zach's kind of like a game-by-game basis. Like, he did some like Zach does good things every game. It's just the consistency in doing it in a manner where, he's playing really well offensively for them, right? They're going to have to step up offensively to help replace that low. For the most part, for everybody else, Na has taken a big jump offensively this year for this Hawks team. He is a ball handler who is not afraid to take shots. Listen, it's going to be in a bit of adjustment for a lot of people watching that because you just don't see Nickeil Alexander-Walker as a guy that in the clutch that you are giving the ball to. But Nickeil is going to take that responsibility, and he at least is going to go out there and try. And he hit some big shots tonight. He pretty much is consistently giving them 17, 18, 16 a game right now. So he will probably take up more responsibility with Trae out, more of the point guard responsibility with Trae out, and he'll have to continue to do what he's doing and be aggressive offensively. Luke Kennard, this is probably the best game he's played as a Hawk, which probably is one of the reasons why he finished the game. This was his best game. I know that he can be a bit of a liability defensively, and I know that's something that the Hawks are risking when he plays out there, especially in clutch situations. But his offense, his ability to shoot, the spacing, his ball handling are very valuable to the Hawks. And this Trae Young injury will show why the Hawks made the additions they made this offseason, why they acquired Nickeil, why they acquired Luke, why Dyson Daniels got those reps last year. They're going to have to carry the load, and Jalen Johnson from a ball handling perspective. And you even saw, even with the Trae injury, I truly don't actually think Keaton Wallace was going to play tonight. I think Quinn was going to shorten the rotation and take Keaton out. But when Trae went down, he had to put him in. Keaton played 14 minutes tonight. If he starts games, that may be more 20 minutes tonight. I don't see Keaton going over 20. I know a lot of people are nervous about that because you don't think Keaton brings a lot to the table. And you're just like, and people were talking about, I wish we attacked backup point guard more in the offseason. I will say this again. The Hawks, when Trae is healthy, the backup point guard is going to play like 5 to 10 minutes. You are not getting a starting caliber backup point or a solid upper end backup point guard for 10 minutes a night. Y'all have to get over that. That's why they did what they did. And now Dyson, Luke are the ball handlers because they're going to be a part of the rotation and they can take that responsibility if Trae has to sit with foul trouble or whatever. And now in this situation, he's out. They're going to have to pick up the load because that's how it goes. Now the Hawks have an extra roster spot. If the Hawks want to, they can go acquire a point guard. There isn't many available that are like standing out. But the two names you probably will think of is probably Cam Payne, who I know people are like, ew, or Ben Simmons. He has been a very popular name. Hawks fans have been putting Ben Simmons' name out there for years now. He has been a person people have wanted to bring to Atlanta even before all this happened. They think with his ability to defend and his passing ability, he will fit just fine. But Brad Rowland made a great point about Ben. With the way Ben plays, you're going to have to change the way you play a little bit for him. And that's why he's not necessarily highly desired by teams. It's a reason why he's a free agent. Plus, you have to also accept outside of fast break dunks and stuff like that, he's not necessarily going to score the ball. The thing about him playing point guard is if he's playing in the backcourt, he's basically useless to you offensively. If you're going to keep him around the front court, at that point, you're using him more as a point forward, more as a big who can pass, which you already technically have that in Jalen Johnson. So I don't, and also the Hawks are so big on spacing. Ben Simmons will not help the spacing whatsoever because you know what teams are going to do when Ben Simmons brings the ball up. They're going to be at the free throw line while he's at the top of the three-point line, and now the Hawks spacing is messed up. And that's one reason why I don't think the Hawks are going to go after Ben Simmons. It just the way they're trying to play and the way they want to play. I understand the defense and I understand the passing, but the way it's going to hurt them offensively, I just think Quinn's just not going to do that. Onsi and Quinn are not going to do that, right? Plus, you'd have to figure out how many minutes would he play. How there would be a lot of configuring to do with him than bringing in a guy like a campaign. I think someone brought up Jared Butler. Apparently, he's already gone overseas, so he's not. As far as I know, he's not available right now. So, and then they have Nikola in the G League. So I would not be shocked if he's called up to the main roster and he won't play, but he'll just be an emergency option if they want to go in that direction. So, you know, this period of time right now with the Hawks and without Trae Young is going to be a very interesting time. You play Indiana next, who usually gives you trouble. Even though they haven't had a great start to the year, they give the Hawks a ton of trouble. And, you know, they've had point guard injuries as well. So we'll see what the Hawks does. But if anything, you're probably going to see what you do tonight. The Hawks, without Trae Young, are going to have to lean more into their defense. They're going to have to make a lot more games ugly. They're going to have to make a lot more games lower scoring. You do not want to try to get into 130, 120 games without Trae Young, unless Jalen and Kristaps and maybe someone else is having a big night for you. Because then you can say, okay, we're getting the offensive support to then do that. If not, you probably want to ugly the games up, which without Trae, you can make these games more defensive. So, you know, that's going to be interesting. And also another thing to keep an eye on. If the Falcons, I'm not about to say the Falcons, if the Hawks are able to maintain and win some games without Trae, I am already ready for this Trae Young made the Hawks worse narrative BS, because people are going to be ready to say it because it fits their narrative that they don't want Trae on the team. So, because God forbid your team is good enough to win without your star player. Now the star player is the problem. And it's ridiculous because it's like, so, but if they crumble, then you're going to be like, why did the front office not put a better together roster? It's like, there's no way you can win in that situation. It's essentially like, you can't do, it's almost like if they're winning 1-point games every night where they're barely surviving every night, then it's like, well, we're barely surviving. So I guess we need Trae. But that's kind of my take and my look at the Trae Young situation with him being out with an injury. Like I said, we'll figure out more about the injury tomorrow, Thursday. So, and, you know, we'll have to see how the Hawks respond. But those are kind of the things you're going to have to look at for the Hawks coming up for them to be able to hang on. Like I said, they play Indiana on Halloween. So I'll be at a Halloween function, but I will be checking the score to see how the team is doing. And I will maybe potentially ask you guys how you think the guys are doing while they're dealing with the loss of Trae. So I would love to hear you guys' thoughts on how you would try to get through this period if you're the Hawks without Trae Young. Who would you bring in if you would bring someone in? Or is it a lineup change you would make to try to adjust to the loss of Trae Young? I'd love to hear your comments down below in the comment section below. But now let's get into the actual game tonight, guys. Let's get into the game. So the Hawks win 117-112, right? So leading point guy for the Hawks tonight, Jalen Johnson, 23-7-5 tonight. And I mentioned this earlier. Without Trae, this is now Jalen Johnson's time to kind of really take grasp of if they think he can be a 1, 2, or 3. This is the time for him to kind of show up. You see the strong passing. You see the offense. You obviously want him to play better defensively as well. He hasn't been good in the first few games, but Jalen's going to be asked to carry a lot more. He played 29 minutes tonight. He had some foul trouble, but and listen, this also goes to my point I made last episode. If there's one thing the Hawks have, they have front court depth. So if they want to try to do a little bit more with the front court and rely more on that, they have the guys to do it. But Jalen's going to have to step up tonight. And I feel like I said tonight, outside of the foul trouble, I think he did a pretty good job. I think the Hawks in general did a better job crashing the boards tonight. Hawks had 44 rebounds, 13 offensive rebounds. Nets had 47 and 15 offensive rebounds. For the majority of the game, I think the Hawks did well rebounding. I think the fourth quarter, Brooklyn started to kind of win that battle in the rebounding battle, which is why they have better numbers at the end of the game. But in the first couple of quarters, the Hawks were doing good on the boards. So that's something that they need to continue to consistently do, is continue to rebound, because that's what also allowed Brooklyn to get back into the game late in the fourth quarters. They were able to get those extra possessions and those offensive rebounds. And Claxton started to kind of wake up more a little bit in that game. But like I said, Jalen, this is his time to shine. Jalen has to step up. Jalen has to take that next step as a player. Kristaps Porzingis, 14, 6, and 7 tonight. 7 assists for Kristaps Porzingis. You don't look at Kristaps as a passer, but this is kind of what Quinn ball is, where everybody can make a play for somebody else. And Kristaps is another piece of that. He also dealt with foul trouble. He fouled out tonight in this game. Obviously the Nets were attacking him and getting into his body and creating fouls for themselves. But, like I said, he's another guy who has to step up in this realm. But you saw at times tonight, shot clock's running down. They need a shot. You got Terrence Mann on Porzingis. Let's go to Porzingis, and he'll just take a shot over him. And Porzingis has really gotten good at making that. And so it's a shot that you kind of can view that as like a bailout shot, but it's a shot that he can make on a regular basis and can help the Hawks in late fourth quarter situations. And I think Kristaps is the reason why the half court offense is so much better in that regard. But I think, like I said, you obviously don't want him getting into foul trouble, but you obviously want him to continue to get better, continue to grow with this team and, figure out his niche. But I mean, realistically, again, he has to be a guy who carries the offensive load and continues to push forward for the Hawks. So I'll talk about Dyson here. So Dyson continued to struggle offensively tonight, 3 of 10 from the field, 0-1 from 3, 4 rebounds. Dyson, listen, for as much as we are crapping on him offensively, he only had 4 boards, but he was crashing the boards with the bigs. And that is one thing Dyson Daniels would do. Even if he's not helping you offensively, he will try to impact different parts of the game. He is not just if he can't defend, he can't do anything else. Remember, on that last play, I think the Nets got 2 offensive rebounds, and I think Cam Thomas put up a 3. Dyson scales up and tips the ball to a Hawk. He didn't get the rebound, but he tipped that thing out to get it to a Hawk player, and that pretty much wrapped up the game. That's why Dyson Daniels is out there. That's the value Dyson Daniels brings to this team. You would just like to see him improve offensively. And with Trae out, you kind of need him to improve offensively. He had 3 steals tonight and a block as well. And so I understand the frustrations with Dyson offensively. I do. I do. And you hope that can improve. But at the same time, Dyson needs to remember, continue to pass, continue to rebound, continue to help on the board, continue to defend. Because listen, when you and Nikhil are out there at the 1 and 2, that's probably one of the best point of attack defensive duos you can get in the league. That still hasn't changed, regardless of how Dyson started this year. So, and that's why Quinn plays him. At the end of the day, he says, I need Dyson's ability to crash the boards, assist, and defend. I am willing to risk the offense being shaky to not have him to have him on the floor. Plus, that kind of goes into Zach. As I get to Zach, with Zach also not really getting it going offensively, I know a lot of people want Zach to close, but if you have Dyson and Zach closing games, and then you lose Porzingis, Who is scoring the ball outside Nickeil Alexander-Walker? Who? Him and Jalen. That's all you got. Because the other two have showed you they can't be trusted to score yet. And then, I mean, like I said, if it's KP, you're fine. If it's a Okongwu, could be fine. I mean, because Okongwu has done a good job offensively, but like I said, especially tonight, Luke Kennard had 17 points. He needed a guy who could space, hit a shot if they need it. Technically, Luke Kennard was better in that situation than Richeche, even though Richeche is the better defensive player. It just depends on, in those situations, in those late moments, what do you value more, the defense or the offense in that situation? And tonight, Quinn valued the offense. And he said, I think with Nickeil and Dyson, we can get away with having one player defensively that's not great. When he has those two on the floor, he feels like I can get away with it. If Zach can get it going offensively, then you can have him on the floor as well. But Zach tonight had 8 points, 3 rebounds. Again, just finding a way to get his rhythm offensively. Just getting him to a point where he can get, because he had the first half of the Raptors game, he played well. And then he had that ankle injury. And then it's kind of changed for him since then. He's been trying, it's like his game just hasn't gotten back to what he was in the first half of that game. And so, and I know, listen, I get why people want Richeche, because in terms of two-way, that is the most even thing you can put out there. If you put Luke out there, you're losing defense, but you're getting a better shooter probably. If and with Zach, if he can get the offensive game going, he's 6'10", he's big, he can defend, he can cut, he can shoot a little bit. It makes, I understand the thought process. And I also get the understanding of, we want him in those moments, in those situations, so he can get those reps, because that's very important, getting those reps in those clutch situations and trying to win in clutch situations. I get all of that. But I'm just trying to get y'all to understand why Quinn is doing that. It's just like in that situation, it's like, I got Dyson and Nickeil out here. We can survive with one guy who can bring more offensively to the plate than defensively. Because essentially that's what you do when you have Trae Young in that situation, is you're just having a guy who brings more offensively than he is defensively, and then you have two really good defenders. And I've said with Nah coming in this year, I question if Richeche is going to finish games, because I'm like, you can make an argument Nah has more value than Richeche in those moments, even though he's the smaller player. I think a lot of you are obsessed with size, so they're like, I don't care if he's the better defender. I need size on the floor, and I'll live with whatever Richeche gives me, because that is the key, and that's the question I have to you guys. If Quinn goes with Richeche, are y'all okay with him potentially messing up in those situations? Are you okay with him potentially having bad plays? Because that's going to be part of the experience. And I'm not saying that no other player is going to have bad plays, but with Richeche, the chances of it happening are a little bit higher because of his experience. And so if you're cool with that, and you're like, I just need him to get those reps so he can get better, we're good. If you're not okay with that, you see why he finishes who he finishes with in these games. And right now, Quinn Snyder is saying, I'm not okay with that because I'm trying to win games. So I know that'll probably be a discussion that we will continue to have moving forward. But that's kind of how I view that. And like I said, talking about Nickeil, 18 points tonight. Like I said, he's shooting the shot a lot. He had 17 attempts tonight. Nickeil clearly got the green light from Quinn Snyder, said, brother, show me the offensive bag. And Nickeil, you kind of, when you watch Nickeil, it's like, he kind of got a bag. Like, it ain't nothing crazy, but like, if he could give you 16 to 18 a night with some elite defense, I mean, how can you hate that? How can you hate that? Like, and now, like I said, he will probably be the finishing point guard from this point forward with Trae Young out. So defensively in the fourth quarter, the Hawks are going to have their defense probably, depending on who finishes, obviously in the Zach spot, their defense is probably going to be the strength of their team in those moments. The question is Nickeil going to have it going? Is Dyson going to figure it out? And is Zach or Luke or whoever going to be also to provide something as well? That's going to be the key, because Nickeil had 3 blocks tonight and 2 steals. Like, you see how valuable Nickeil is to this team. Like, he's extremely valuable to this team with the way he plays. And He played 32 minutes tonight. He'll probably be hitting 30 minutes a game for the next few games, the next few weeks. So he's a very big part of it. He's been playing really well. We just need him to keep doing it. Kongu for double-double tonight, 12 and 14. Continues to play well coming off the bench. Continues to give them something. Reliable player off the bench for them. And he'll obviously need to continue to do that with Trae's absence. Luke Kennard, like I said, had his best game as a Hawk. Seemed more confident. The shot looked beautiful tonight. 4 or 5 from 3 from the field with 2 assists. If Luke plays like this, I feel much better about their offense. If Luke plays the way he played the first few games, I feel terrible about their offense. A lot of offensive success the Hawks could have for the next few weeks without Trae is going to be very dependent on Luke Kennard. And if he's aggressive and getting shots up. If he's timid, I'm a little concerned. If he's aggressive, I think this will bode really well for them offensively moving forward. Let me talk about Mo Gay, man. Mo Gay, 9 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists tonight. Mo Gay, man, had a steal in the game. My boy Mo hitting the 3 and looking at the bench, Brooklyn's bench. Who is that man? I love it. Listen, Mo Gay, man. Listen, when you watch him play, I said this before and after the Orlando game, he just looks more confident. He looks more controlled. He looks more slowed down. He just looks more like just comfortable. And I think Quinn's seeing that, and it's like, if I need to play him more, I can. He played 10 minutes last game. He played 14 this game. And I said if Okongwu fouls out, Mo coming back in that game. But I don't think anybody's looking at it as a big thing, as a bad thing. When he plays like this, that's not a bad thing at all. I think the key for him is just if he can give him something offensively along with his good defense. I mean, Mo is someone I think Quinn Snyder can put a lot of trust in. And you could see his impact just on the court. He was 9 plus 9 from the field tonight. So Mo Gay, man, love to see him coming along like this and playing well. I really do, man. Really good stuff from him. And then Keaton Wallace had 3 points, 5 assists tonight. The biggest thing for Keaton Wallace from this point on, with him potentially taking on a bigger role, is this: just don't make mistakes. Take the open looks when you have them, and find your teammates. Those are the 3 basic things he needs to do. If he does that, he'll be fine. Keaton is not a guy who seems like he's going to try to do more than what he knows he can do. I don't think he's going to try to sit here and jack stuff up because he's trying to show that I can make up for Trae Young loss. Keaton just needs to do the basics. Just when you have an open look, like that 3 he took, if it's open, take it. He can knock him down. The ball movement, play make. He had 5 assists tonight. Do that and just do your thing. Defend. Defend as hard as you can. That's all I can ask of Keaton Wallace. I'm not going to sit here and say, give me 15 tonight. No. If he give me 15 tonight, fantastic. But if not, that's okay. We know what your game is. That's not a problem. So, overall tonight, man, Hawks, under 10 turnovers. They've been better with turnovers. Under 10 turnovers tonight, 33 assists, even without Trae. Just really, man. It's going to be interesting what happens with Trae. Obviously, when we find out what happens with Trae, we'll see what happens with this team moving forward. We'll see how they approach it, obviously, moving forward. I don't know if I'll have a podcast for you Friday night, just because, like I said, I'm out of function. So we'll see how that goes. But, yeah, I think that, the Hawks win tonight. They're 2-3. They got Indiana coming up. Indiana, has had their struggles, right? As of right now, as I'm recording this, they're trailing Dallas. They haven't won a game yet. So obviously a lot of people are like, oh God, we're going to be the Pacers' first win. But you win that game, get to 3-3 before the Hawks go against, I believe it's Cleveland. Let's just see how things go. We wait word on Trae Young. That's the big story coming out of the night. And we keep pushing, and we'll see how the Hawks can adapt. Because I think this team can adapt without Trae. It's just they're going to need certain things to happen to make sure they can. So I think that's about it for me, guys. I appreciate you guys tuning in for another Believe in Hawks episode. If you enjoyed the episode, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and leave a comment down below about anything we talked about tonight. Also, audio listeners, leave a 5-star rating if you will for your boy. Always appreciate it. All the support and love that you guys give me for show. And also follow me on Twitter at Bryce_2K. So I think that's about it for me, guys. Hawks 2-3. Let's see if we can get a little bit of a winning streak going. But it's your boy Bryce Lewis. See you next time.